Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Midland Reporter Telegram's football preview spectacular video. I'm not quite sure what I want to call it here, but I'm here with Oscar Leroy. We're here talking a little bit about area football. Lots of changes in our area this year. At least 4 new coaches. The biggest change of all was Greenwood with Coach Shad Hanna taking over for Steve Taylor, who is now in Brownfield. But Hanna came to us from Alpine Monahan's graduate, and Hanna's coming in and changing a whole lot of things. Oscar, how have things been going over there at Greenwood?
A lot better than I expected, to be honest with you. I didn't think that kids in the community would respond as well as they have, but it seems like they've really taken to Coach Hanna and his spread offense. You know, for about 25 years, starting with Coach Purser and then with Coach Taylor for the previous 5 years, they ran the wishbone. Mm-hmm. The old school style. Pound it, and just 3 yards in a cloud of dust, basically. And
right.
Throwing the pass was almost non-existent there,
right.
Unless they had to. But now it's like, the guys are stepping up, and from what I've been gathering, and the kids really like the offense.
Do you think it's a situation where if there was any school, I know a lot of schools have gone to the spread and gone back. Is Greenwood the type of place where you can implement the spread, and it might be one of those few places where it might work, going from a power running team to the spread, or is that still to be seen?
I think the kids' attitudes dictates a lot of that, and their work ethic, and that's something that Greenwood has always been known for. That's something that attracted Coach Hanna to apply for the job, because he knew that the kids there, that no matter what, they would respond to coaching, and they have, and that's why it's working there at Greenwood. Now, how successful that's going to be once the lights come on,
right.
and other teams start defending it,
right.
We'll see. But
right.
Early on, it's looking good.
But it helps that they've got like 5 non-district games before they. Six. Yeah, they got 6 non-district games before they have to start playing Andrews, Seminole, Monahans, all that fun stuff.
But it doesn't help. Their non-district schedule is pretty tough.
Right.
They're not having it. They have to play Big Spring among them. Big Spring, of course, make the playoffs, and of course, Kahoma. They have a new coach.
Right.
But they got a good track record too. So there's nothing easy. There's no Reagan County on this
right,
schedule. So
right.
It's going to be tough for them.
What do you think they're going to be able to make the playoffs?
It's going to be tough. It just depends on how they progress. Because right now, Monahans, of course, has the tradition. And Andrews has a lot of seniors come back. Seminole also has a lot of tradition. They've gone to the playoffs 6 years under Coach Chris Burge. So that's going to be real tough to break the top 3. If they can upset one of those teams, then they got a shot.
Talk a little bit about 4-3A here, Andrews. I know you went up there last week. A lot of optimism up in Andrews this year, isn't there?
A lot of seniors, and that helps. Every time they've had a large senior class, they've made a good run in the playoffs. Last year in the Blaine Springston, they went to the quarterfinals in Division I, 3A. So they got high hopes this year. They got a lot of those kids back. A lot of guys who have played in varsity for 3 years.
Right.
So they know.
That's right.
And all 3 years have been under Coach Cordell.
Yeah.
So they know the system on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. They just got a great attitude, and they want to win this year.
Talk a little bit about. We'll go over to their rival. They're not playing this year, but Big Spring, dropping down to 3A. Lost a lot of talent off that team last year. They still got some kids coming back, but the UIL sent them east. So facing Brownwood, Abilene, Wiley, people like that. Talk a little bit about Coach Ritchie. He's got to have some guarded optimism, doesn't he?
Sure. And it all depends on how some of the kids and new spots develop. That has to do with the guarded optimism. But he's got his offensive line back. All 5 guys returned. He's got some great playmakers on defense, and they're all going to be starting on offense too.
Okay.
So they need to find a quarterback. DeMonte Anderson, Monte's little brother, is kind of like he has the inside track right now, but other guys could emerge. They need to develop their wide receivers. It's been going a little slow as far as passing and catching the football.
Right.
They're going to have some running backs, but not the game breaker that Monte was last year.
Right. And then one of the other big changes that happened in, I guess, all around the state of Texas was Class 2A and A has now gone the road of 6-man, where they've split the divisions right at realignment. You're playing similar schools in your district. Does that make a difference for a team knowing they're going to be in that division playing similar schools compared to the fact that they were in a different district, not knowing which way they were going to go?
Oh yeah, that's one of the reasons that coaches pushed for it, because they wanted to play schools with similar enrollments. So that's going to make a big difference. Now, you take away some rivalries, of course, with that.
Right.
Like Colorado City no longer plays Coahoma or Stanton, you know, when you've seen them in the past. Now they got to go west with Crane and Alpine and those guys. So that's the biggest difference as far as, you know, them getting to the playoffs. I guess it gives more coaches hope, but I guess it also puts more coaches on the hot seat, you know,
right.
because if they don't make the playoffs, then they're going to get fired.
Right.
That happens in the state of Texas.
Yeah.
You know, there's really very little room for mistakes.
Well, yeah, and they've added the third playoff team to it. So essentially, there are 6 teams going in Class 2A and A in 32 districts. Mm-hmm. You know, it's very weird how that happens. So I guess, you know, it's going to be interesting to see how everything plays out. But you know, I do know Coahoma. You know, Coach Gardner's brought in a wing tee system, and you know, he's going to rely on that thing. He's a hardcore wing tee guy. That Greenwood-Coahoma game could be a very interesting game. Yeah. It could be very good, or it could be 2 teams not quite sure what they're doing.
I think the wing tee is going to fit Coahoma better. I don't know if they have essentially the playmakers at wide receiver to run the spread offense, but I think if they just run the ball and they get guys, and, you know, they're going to have a good. They've always had solid offensive lines.
Right.
So, and, you know, I don't know if they're. You know, how Peter Costa, I think he's going to be the starting quarterback. He's played some there before, but I think the wing team is a better fit for them.
Yeah, wing team's a good offense. Sometimes if you got the kids to run it, you can do great at it. If you don't, you can hide a few things. You know, Monahan's has done an impeccable job of that throughout the years. You know, Mickey Owens has done a great job of that throughout the years. Some years they didn't have talent, they'd be able to plug kids in there and be able to do what
they've done it without, you know, kids that aren't necessarily studs at running back.
Right.
You know, they're pretty good running backs. But, you know, you have a solid offensive line. You have kids that work hard in the backfield. And they've been successful.
Yeah. And then little private schools here. Midland Christian, coming off a year losing in the first round of the playoffs. I think it's been a while since they've lost. It's been a while since they've lost in the first round of the playoffs. I think it's been nearly a decade, I believe.
I think since, well, yeah. I would have to say 2002, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. It's been a while, and I know, you know, with as fired up as Coach McClendon can be and things like that, I mean, how much of a chip on his shoulder is that team going to have on their shoulder? Is that team going to have this year?
Well, with Coach McClendon, they always have a chip on their shoulder.
That's true.
That's true. They always have something to prove. There's always, you know, people talking positively or negatively about private schools where they belong with a public school. So there's always motivation there.
Right.
You know,
right.
Greg McClendon's going to find it. You know, how the kids respond, that's a different story. But I know they got some good skill people back.
Right.
I do like Christian Wiggum. I mean, to me, I think he's a stud in the making.
Yeah, he is. He's probably their best athlete on their team, even as a sophomore. I mean, I'll go out and say that right now. I mean, he's a phenomenal kid and great. You know, and where they use him in the backfield is yet to be determined because Coach McClendon said maybe a little fullback, maybe a little tailback, a lot on defense because they're running a different defense. So he's going to get to play safety, make some plays, things like that. So it's going to be interesting. There's going to be some interesting games involving them because they run a nice little gauntlet 3A schedule: Big Spring, Seminole, Monahan's. Got to get Greenwood in that mix somehow. Mm-hmm. You know, in that I know they're scrimmaging each other Saturday, but that's one of the things about Coach McClendon at MCS is he's never been afraid to scrimmage to play those people as long as they'll come play him.
Yeah, I mean he's always had good talent there. The thing is, you know, it's not like a pushover. They're not a pushover as a private school. You know, they're getting leftovers from the Permian Basin. They've been one of the most consistent programs in the last decade.
Can you give me a top 3 in District 4-3A right now?
In 4-3A, I'm going to have to go with Monahan's, Seminole right now, but Andrews could sneak up and get number 2.
And then either Andrews or Seminole?
Either Andrews or Seminole, depending on, you know, because right now I'm having Seminole because I think they have more of the game breakers than Andrews does. But, you know, with that experience, you know, they can do a lot of damage.
Right.
Andrews.
And one final thing, we do have a state champion coming back this year in the Permian Basin in the Garden City Bearcats, defending 6-man Division I state champions. A lot of people coming back off that team, but how hard is it to repeat?
It's hard, but I like that team. I really do. I mean, I liked them last year, and I'm the only one that picked them. Okay, so I said when they beat Throckmorton, and you know that was the state championship, and that's who they're going to have to beat again. Throckmorton is good too. They have that quarterback who was a stud last year, ran for 400 yards. I think every play, I think every time he ran the ball, he ran for 50 yards. So, you know, that's going to be a great, you know, matchup down the road. But Garden City, you know, to me, that's been the team in waiting, and they finally broke through last year, and I think they can be there this year with all those kids coming back.
Yeah, they've got a ton of kids coming back. They do have some questions on I guess it's tough to say with 6-man, but they've got some questions with their interior lines with some depth issues. But, you know, they've been able to plug a few kids in there. In past years, they missed a key piece on defense with Marcus Cook graduating. But that team, I wouldn't be surprised if they're back in Abilene again in December fighting for a state championship. Who do you think is going to be our surprise team this year?
Wow. If I'm going to have to pick one, if somebody's going to come out of nowhere, it's going to be Como. Because I don't think not too many people expect much out of the Bulldogs. They haven't made the playoffs in a few years, and they got a new coach. But in that district, I think there's a lot of spots that are wide open. Of course, you got Idalou coming back. Idalou's always been good for several years.
Yeah.
Stanton's got a lot of kids coming back. Post has been there. They've got athletes. They don't have as many people coming back, but they always have pretty good athletes.
Right.
And Kahoma just, if they get together, they could sneak in there.
It's right for them to do that. That's an interesting district over there because I think Forsan's in that district as well.
Forsan, Anson, Hawley, a lot of those teams are rebuilding, but Cahoma's got some kids back, and I think they can push in there in the top 3.
Cool. We'll be back every week here. Oscar will be talking about area football. We'll have Sean Schroyer talking about District 3-5A, along with Jonathan Hall as well, talking about District 3-5A. I want to thank Oscar for joining us today. Thank you very much.